So, gender-neutral raccoons on CBeebies. I'm trying to work out what was the point. Oh yeah, that's it, poison the kid's mind. Of course it's stupid, mate. Oh well, the lumps of wood are still pushing this one. However, right, you got to watch what you put in front of your kids. Another interesting thing I saw the other day was a kid losing its shit. It was an Asian kid, Chinese or something, whatever it was, right? And it was literally going mental, and it was raging and everything, because what these people had done is, it is like from the age of nothing to 4, they just shoved it with a gadget in his face, like a, I don't know, some tablet or whatever, and watch that, rather than actually taking the effort to explain what all the things are around it and form the kid's brain. It's basically the scientists have shown that you shove one of them things in the kid's face, it doesn't learn how to cope, it has no coping mechanisms for fuck all, right, and it just needs that to feel safe. And the moment you take it away, it loses its shit. So when I was a kid, we didn't have TV programs until the afternoon when you come in from school. So much so that I ended up being unlucky enough, if I was with my nan, we ended up watching Crown Court. I don't even know what Crown Court was all about, but that's what we would watch at lunchtime while I had my peanut butter sandwich cut into triangles. Happy memories that was of my nan. And I do miss my grandparents, who have been passed away a long time, but if I can have them back for a few hours and just talk to them, I'd really enjoy that. Hey, I digress there again. However, teaching kids about non-binary and gender neutral and all that stuff is cancerous, poisonous. It's actually detrimental, it's damaging, it's all of these things. And incidentally, raccoons aren't non-binary, by the way, because raccoons haven't been, how do we say, brainwashed by cultural Marxism to believe anything else but what they're there to do. And their sole purpose of a raccoon, apart from a few side hustles or whatever, is to exist and breed, right? Exist and breed. That's it. That is all you're there to do. To live long enough to reproduce, to keep your species going. And to be honest, that's all we're here to do. The fact that we've been through things like the Renaissance and other periods of our life where we have brought ourselves to this more enlightened, allegedly, right, decadent, well, we're now decadent, right? The fact that we enjoy things like art, we enjoy sightseeing, we enjoy holidays, we enjoy all sorts of other things, and depending on what side of this political spectrum, actually, let's fuck that off. Depending on what side of the right or wrong you are, where your morals are, or what all the rest of it, morals are all part of us being more advanced than, say, for instance, a raccoon, although a raccoon will learn not to shit in its own nest, I should imagine. But anyway, the fact that we've learned all these things, okay, and depending on which side you are, as to whether you appreciate more family values, doing stuff with the family, and making sure your lot are all right, and your lot are happy. And to be honest, the richest man in the world is a man that has a happy family around him, a happy, healthy family around him, and that doesn't need lots of materialistic things to smile. Now, speaking from a person who has got some materialistic stuff, the vehicles, because that's my thing, that's what I like. They're not new, by the way, they're, you know, one of them, but it's the thing that I do because I'm a single man. However, would I chop all that lot in for being a happily married man with loads of kids living at home? Yeah, of course I would. I would. I make no bones about that. Okay, I would switch it in a heartbeat, and I'd drive around a fucking larder or whatever. Serious. But as that isn't the case, all right, and we're in a modern world at the moment, we'll just press on as we are. But going back to the kids, if you can keep your kids away from phones, TVs, laptops, computers of any description, games consoles, tablets, and any other description of electronic device, that kid has much more of a chance in the future. You can explain to them that there's electronic devices out there, but if you can explain to them that the people who thrust an electronic device in the face of these kids don't love the kids as much as the parents who want to take the time, right, to nurture the kid, which is what actually we're meant to do. Educate the kid, tell the kids stories about things that will be important to them in the future. You know, impress upon them the importance of honesty, fairness, decency, morals, ethics, all of that shit. And you'd install that into a kid before it goes to the meat grinder, that is school, before they try and undo it all. Now, the hardship is this, that the kid will come back confused because they're going to try and teach everything at school, which is the complete opposite to what you're going to taught them, because, hey, you've got to collapse the society. But it's up to you whether you decide you want to actually homeschool your kids. Now, to bring a kid into the world at the moment is a brave thing, but it shouldn't stop you going through with having kids, because at the end of the day, that's what you're here to do, is reproduce. That's your sole purpose on earth. Not to be the richest man that went to his grave, or the man with the most toys. All right? You're there purely to put more feet on the ground. All right? Now, there is a culture at the moment that, as inbred as they are, and as backward as they are, and as hateful as some of them are, and as fucking animal-like in many ways that some of them are, and it's not just one culture, there's a few of them, right? The one thing that they haven't detracted from is the fact they have to breed, and they seem to have embraced that rather well. Some have decided to get multiple partners to breed with. Now, I'm not thinking that most of those kids are going to be having a tablet or any sort of a computer shoved in front of them, but that's to say that they're not probably going to have the happiest life either, because I should imagine it will be an entirely strict family with a lot of certainly a lot of unhappiness in it. No, not all of them, all right? I know some people from that ideology that seem to manage to actually be happy, but they have some sort of life balance of where when they shut the door, they're not totally and utterly consumed by the death cult that is Islam, or they're not totally consumed, depending on if they're not Islamic or whatever, whatever other ideology or fucking cult that they seem to be shoved into. But going back to kids, you really are taking a lottery if you decide that you want to put the TV on for your kid and walk away from it, because you don't have to be walked away from for very long to find out what they're trying to push. That'll be transgender, that'll be multiple sexes, that'll be people dressed up in all sorts of inappropriate shit. A child needs to understand that it is either a male or a female, and little things, little simple things, like the beginnings of understanding what maths are, the understanding what English is, maybe even teaching a little bit of history, only a little bit, what they can take on. You don't want to flood their head with stuff, but there it is. But CBeebies is just one of many children programs which seem to want to push as much degeneracy on our kids. Now, I was listening to a person yet again on GB News, because I've been watching a little bit of it over the last couple of days, which is why I've done more videos, because it's made me think, hang on a fucking minute. Now, this person said we don't have to be it ourselves. Right, this is things like the transgender, the cross-dressing, the multiple sexes, and all the other shit. We don't have to be it ourselves, but we have to accept it. We have to make room for it, right? And and it's like, hang on a second. No, I don't. I don't have to accept anything that isn't nature and natural, right? In so much as anything that might confuse the human population from breeding. I'm certainly not going to push that, because that's detrimental to the stable reproduction and consistent breeding, so that we don't as a population fade out one day. Now, I noticed that they're only teaching this to over here, say for instance what would be the whites, they'll teach it to some of the black kids as well, but you don't seem to have Islam having that lot. They won't stand for that. You see it at school when they start trying to push all this degeneracy. Islam comes out and goes, fuck you, you're not doing it. And the white fucking liberal wankers that are pushing this shit go, alright, we won't teach your kids because of your culture, right? But you white fuckers, you're having it because you've got no excuse, you can't get out of it. Yeah, again, because we don't have Christianity, or a lot of you don't, alright? You can't say, well, actually, Jesus wouldn't have stood for this and I'm not having it and this offends me, because you don't have the right to be offended, or at least that seems to be the case. Apparently, every other degenerate and every other culture and every other small group has the right to be offended, but as a whole, the indigenous white population of Europe, I count us obviously as part of Europe, and obviously Canada and America, none of you lot are allowed to be offended. You have to just take it in your face. And you have to literally, metaphorically speaking, suck on the old of whatever thing they're pushing, because if you don't, you'll have some names chucked to you, and most people still have problems with the names being called. I love them, by the way. The more you want to call names at me, the more I know I've got right up your fucking nose. So, I can tick a box and say I've done my job. Because if what I'm saying is getting to you or upsetting you, then I know that you're one of those mentally ill fuckwits that in the future is going to fail. You are going to crumble. And this leads me on to another thought about that. Is that we were talking about a person that we know, or will remain nameless, and this person has a child. I'm not saying whether it's male or female, because that might sort of give that away. And this person is about as work shy as you can get, acts incredibly immature, right, and has no intentions of ever standing on its own 2 feet. That'll be your job. Somebody has to sustain me, because I have no intentions. I'm idle, lazy, useless, self-entitled, no responsibility, all of that stuff, no accountability. And unfortunately that child's not alone. When I say child, it's like 17 or 18 or whatever it is, so I shouldn't even be calling it a child, young adult. But that person is fucking useless as a human being, absolutely useless, has no value. Now that might sound terrible, right? Especially to a woke person. Everybody has value. No, I'm fucking sorry, they don't. If they can't fend for themselves, or look after others, or actually do something for the group, then you're nothing but a parasite. You're fucking useless. So, the problem is, these parasites are being looked after by the schools, the colleges, and the benefit system. But as I said, the benefit system, when it collapses, what happens to these useless fucktard parasites then? Well, I'll tell you, they'll either go around with a begging bowl, or they'll commit suicide, because they cannot accept, most of them, that they'll ever have to stand on their own 2 feet. I mean, look at some of these creatures in America of the same ilk. Generally, we would have called them in the old days left, but I'll just call them mentally ill now, because that's where we are, right? These people, once they realised that they actually had to stand on their own 2 feet, went and sued their own parents, right? Because they didn't ask to be born into a world that they'd end up having to work to sustain their own life. It was somebody else's job. They see themselves in the same way as a pet, where the pet gets fed, housed, and all the rest of it, but without having to give back any sort of happiness, which maybe a dog or a cat would. These people believe that something should sustain them. They should go off and do whatever it is that makes them happy, and sleep, and eat, and somebody else has got to pick up the bill. But the moment that doesn't happen, they lose their shit. Now, as I say, these people were trying to sue their parents, saying they never asked to be born and how dare they make them. Well, I'm sorry, but you don't get a fucking choice. Man up, get on with it, stop being a swat, because nobody gives a shit. And that's where we are. And the problem is, we're going to have a lot of these people fall by the wayside. And the very people that made these people the way they are won't be there to pick up the pieces. Oh no, because they'd have moved on to the next fad, the next craze that keeps them in the hive. It seems that many of these people wanted to creep up the ladder of I'm more better, or how's it? What's the word I'm looking for here? Honestly, like, they're so perfect, they're so great, that none of you will ever attain my level of caring and love and all that other woke bullshit that they come out with, because deep down they're some of the most hateful creatures ever. But the phase was, at the time, to look the most embracing, the most woke, the most on the cusp of the latest, whatever this kid comes up with, we're there to help them with it. Or maybe we'll just inject some new fuckwit idea into these kids' heads, and then we'll run with them. Well, anyway, these same creatures will have got off that train of being the latest whatever when they see the tide of everybody moving, and they'll try and get into the forefront of whatever the next thing is. And do you know what it'll be? It'll probably be right-wingness, right, if that's a word. And well, when they realise that that's the only thing that's going to save their ass, some of them will tranship from that ship to this one. And when they do, they'll be more hardcore than any people who have ever been what I would consider to be to the right, because they'll be sensationalists. They'll have to do more and more, and they'll want to look more right-wing than everybody else, and they'll be the ones that'll be calling for blood, etc. And do you know what they'll do with these other little fuckwits that they've created? They'll mock them, they'll boo them, they'll bully them, and they'll encourage them to, well, do the what would be called the unthinkable. Because these people who run from pillar to post doing the latest fad thing have no integrity, no honour, no soul, and these are the people that have created all this shit. Mad times. But as I've digressed quite a bit, as I usually do, my advice would be keep your kids away from electronic devices until they're sort of old enough and you've got it through to them. The world is a bad place out there, and there will be a lot of people that want to teach you to do things that are completely wrong. Make sure you get it into your kids' head very early on what gender they are and why they're that gender and what their job is on this planet to do. Because the quicker you teach kids what's expected of them, what the rules are, they can settle down and get on with it. You'll find that some of the kids that are the worst behaved are the ones that have no boundaries, no rules, and they don't feel settled. Why is it you think that so many kids that were fuckwits in their early life go and join the army and get on? Because they're told exactly what to do, when to wake up, when to go to sleep, when to march, when to polish the weapons, when to drill, when to do, and they get comfort from that structure. There's no ifs or buts, there's no grey areas, and they can settle to that. And you'll find a lot of kids that are in a fairly well disciplined house are a lot more relaxed kids, because they know exactly how far they can push mum and dad before they get a dry one. I certainly did. But there it is. Anyway, just a few thoughts, and let me know what you think in the comments. I am still reading all the comments, obviously. It is nice to see that when I get it off my plate, there's so many of you that think the same, because you realise that there's more of us out there than we ever thought, and that the world hasn't gone mad. It's just what's being portrayed to us is mad, and being sold as being normal, and we've been told we're mad, which we know we're not. Anyway, well, there's a pothole. I'll see you all in a bit, alright?